Kirk Hilliard.
And this is Rusty Bird. It's the Kirk and Bird Show, and we have with us today Loudoun County football expert, Coach Jason Dawson. Thanks for joining us, Coach.
Oh, you bet, man. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, yeah. So what we want to do is we want to do a quick profile of you. So you're the defensive coordinator at Briar Woods High School, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So I got my start in Loudoun in 2006, and I was at the Broad Run staff for 4 years. It was a lot of success. I was a D-line coach, JV head coach, strength coach, and we went 5-5, 10-1, 14-0, 14-0. Great experience. And then that staff moved on. Yeah, it was awesome. And staff moved on. I stayed, and Coach Matt Griffiths got the job, and he allowed me to stay, and I became the defensive coordinator and still coached D-line linebackers for 2 years, and another amazing experience. I think we went 11-2 and then 8-3. So it was just a tremendous experience for 6 years at Broad Run. And then the John Champe job opened in 2012, brand new high school. And I applied for it, told my wife, I just want to be in charge of my time. And started there in 2012. It was tough. We went 0-10, and it was bad for 2 years. Went 0-10 and 2-8. And then things got a lot better. Hired great people, and we got lucky. Had some great kids go to high school there. And we went, 8-4 and then 11-1 the first 4 years. So tremendous rise. And then winning seasons. Until the last year there, we went 7 seasons in a row with a winning season and playoffs at 3A, 4A, 5A, and 6A. And then my last season, I resigned in 2021, So my 10th year. We were fortunate to win 2 district titles while I was there as the head coach, and at 4A and 6A. And last 2 years, I've been working at Briar Woods, and I still teach at John Champe.
Cool.
Okay,
well, let's let everybody know what we're going to do is a review of Loudoun County football. So we've had a number of Loudoun County coaches on.
Sure.
If everybody can subscribe us on YouTube, and then also we're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Yeah. Coach, we're doing some great discussion before we started talking. So you've been in the county for 17 years. You're at Briar Woods now.
Yep.
And, we were talking about the progression of the schools. I think it's 95 Potomac Falls open, and then Stonebridge came. Yep. And now we've got 17 schools.
Yeah, 17 public high schools.
And one of the things that I think is that a high tide raises all the boats in the ships. So what Coach Thompson has done at Stonebridge is unbelievable. He's like 323, 324 victories. But Champ, we just talked about how successful you've been. Coach Burnett came in, turned Broad Run around, Tuscarora's in state championships. Woodgrove's already won one. Coach, let's get your take on a guy that used to be around when there's 5 high schools. And now that there's 17 and you've worked in a number of buildings, what's your take on Loudoun County high school football?
Well, it's changed dramatically. And we talk about it all the time in the office. There's so much more talent in the county now, and there's so much more good coaching that we could go. And this is not being dismissive of who was in the county in 06 and 07. We went 5-5, and we weren't very good. It was just a great schedule, and there wasn't a lot of dominant teams in the area. Right. We went 10-1 the second year I was there in 2007, and you could go a week or two and not really have to prep a whole lot, and you almost never saw Division I quarterbacks ever. I mean, there was times when I was at Champ, we'd see 3 Division I quarterbacks within 5-6 weeks. Yep. And not counting the ones that coach played at our school. We've had 2 kids from Champ recently go Division I. One's at Towson right now, Zach Jackson, and we just had one last year from Champ. He's at ECU.
That's what I was going to say. I'm sorry.
Talking to Dad this morning.
Yeah. I just wanted to talk real quick. My son played for Colgan, and before that he was at Bishop Ireton. But last year he played Colgan, and I don't think our coaching staff, which was new, had any idea how good Champ football was and that quarterback. I was at the game, and we were like, "Yo, are y'all seeing this? Does anybody know about how good this kid is?"
He's good. You got to give Lee Carter a lot of credit too. So, Pat's journey is interesting. He started as a freshman for us on JV. I think he went 8-2 or 10-0, and then his sophomore season was COVID. But he broke his hand the week before the season going snowboarding. Right. And so, he turned it into a positive. He was there every day. He did the hand signals for the varsity for the no huddle offense the whole season, which really elevated his game from an intellectual standpoint. And then his junior year was the last year I was there as the head coach. And, he only went and got better and better as a junior and senior. I mean, just a tremendously smart football kid and loves football. So, yeah, so, that's one big difference. It's just, back in the, late, I guess early 2000s now, like 7 and 8 and 9, like you just didn't play a lot of tough games and you didn't play a lot of tough teams. And so you could get to the playoffs pretty healthy if you were a well-coached team. And you could beat teams just by having an off season. Well, now everybody has an off season. Everybody works out. Everybody has kids that move in, transfer in. Everybody has a youth feeder system. Everybody has a guy that's connected to that youth system or travel league. And so now it's just become so much more competitive to where having depth is really the challenge now. Finding enough quality coaches, like to fill out a whole staff. And then secondly, on top of that, creating depth, and so those are the two big challenges. And then you put us against Prince William or us against Fairfax, it's not even fair because they don't have a limit on how many coaches they can have on staff. We do. We have 8
I didn't know that.
8 paid, 2 volunteer in Loudoun per school. And one of those volunteers is part-time. Over there, here's your budget, hire as many people as you want, as long as they pass the background check. So, and you decide, and they have a lump sum budget. Like they decide what coach makes what. In Loudoun, there's a stipend per coach. So those are some obstacles. There's a lot of obstacles coaching here. Another one is like in the off season, we technically can't work with our kids until they're finished their 8th grade year, where in other counties, they can start weightlifting with their high school team in January. And so you're always behind. We can go into the middle schools before then and say, hi, here's what we do as a varsity athletics. I want you to know who I am. We really want you to play. That's the different thing. So those are the challenges. Another challenge that people don't realize, like, certain people buy houses for football. And I learned that the hard way when I opened Champ, we went 0-10. And when I was finished that year, I just thought I was a broad run. So I was like, people want to win. And so I didn't realize it wasn't always like that. And we had built a culture there, the head coaches before me. And so I went 30 days in the off season. I'm like, why does nobody want to work out? And so I said, you know what? I'm going to interview every parent. I'm going to sit down with every parent and meet. And I realized a couple things. Number one, people didn't buy a house in Aldi for football. If they bought a house for football, it was going to be 10 minutes down the road by Westfield or Chantilly or 10 minutes the other direction in Ashland. And so but I did find out that parents love their kids and they do want the best for them. But most of these parents, they either weren't football people or they're first generation, their kids in football. So they didn't know what an off season was. They don't know what standards are, how this is just different than travel sports. Like you got to play for us to get recruited. You know what I mean? Like basketball and things, baseball, that's different. But in high school football, it's the only sport where you have to work so hard to get ready and you don't very rarely get to touch the ball. You know what I mean? And so it's just a different animal. So those kind of things really, really are tough on coaches as far as creating connection with the kids, creating depth. And the distractions have gotten harder in the last 17 years. Cell phones,
social media,
iPads, technology. It happened. It was there then.
Right.
But it's different now as far as there's just so much more to do other than train, and relationships are a big deal. Like you got to try to find ways to build relationships with these kids because a lot of them don't need football, and so in my 10 years as the head coach at Champ, and I'm going in all kinds of different directions, just stop me when you're ready. I've had so many recruiters. I've had so many recruiters come in and they found out that our good kids don't need football to go to college. And so we have a lot of D2, D3 quality kids. We have some kids go D1. We had a kid go to Cal, William and Mary. It happens, but we're mainly a D2, D3 type players. And they'll say, well, he's an awesome player. Coach would love to get him. And I'm like, Coach, he's not coming. Like, he don't want to play college football? And I'm like, well, Coach, it costs $57,000 a year to go to your school, play D3. He can go to Tech, in-state, get a scholarship or something, take a minor in something, and now he's down to 18.
Right.
I said, he's going to be an engineer and go to all these great home football games and hang out with his high school buddies. And so a lot of the good D2 and D3 schools, they were like, I'll get them. I'm like, Coach, these kids don't need football to get out of Aldi. You know what I mean? Like they're not trying to get out. You know what I mean? They're going to, college is done. It's done. It was going to happen no matter what. So
I'll tell you what though, Coach, there are some caveats. I've got a good friend, and anybody who knows me probably knows who I'm talking about. They were ODAC. He's D2 now.
Yep.
Within the rules, there's a lot that you can do with those scholarships. And I just found this out like a couple of years ago. I was visiting him. And the thing is that tuition cost, like a Randolph-Macon, a Washington Lee, Hamden Sydney, $65,000 a year.
Yep.
There are kids that with the financial aid system, if they qualify, they can go there for like $18,000 a year.
So what I tell the kids is very simple. I said, listen, first of all, you're never rude to a recruiter. Never. Because you never know when that guy's going to leave W&L and end up at a D2 or a D1 phone call.
Yep.
I said, so I would teach kids, or we would kind of rehearse the kids, here's how you respond. But don't ghost them. It's not some person stalking. Like, you want to be polite. But on top of that, I said, just look, if they really like you, they're going to get you a package. Say, look, I'm very interested. When can you get me some numbers so I can look at, what it's going to cost me? And they're going to go, well, do your FAFSA. I said, great. I tell the kids, but be patient. And what's really also changed in high school football is the signing periods. It used to be so cut and dry when you knew where you were going to go. It was after February 1, then the money started to trickle and it was all gravy. Then they did the early signing period, and now they do spring offers because kids leave after spring ball. Hell, it got so crazy that people started having spring ball in January because they were trying to get ahead of the window to give out because they would do the depth chart after spring practice. When kids were like, I'm in the portal, I'm out. And so we would have guys come back in and go, hey, is that kid still available? I'm like, no, he's already signed. Like, why did he sign? I'm like, because you didn't offer him. He's like, but I got an offer now because my running back, one of my running backs left, and I want to give an offer. But I tell kids, be patient. But as you probably know, high school kids and parents are not patient.
Coach, I have so we could take this anywhere we want, because I'm telling you, Coach, like I'm a father of a young man who just graduated from high school, and he's now playing at Alvernia University. Okay. But he's been a part of that COVID, so I know exactly what you're talking about, because now 4 years ago, when my son started playing, he moved up to varsity and it was really good. And we went out and went to play private school, the WCAC. We came back to his base school. But when he first, like 10th grade, he's going on trips to Penn State, Coastal Carolina, Wake Forest, and he's got all these schools that are saying they're interested. But then with the NIL and the transfer portal, like, we're just like, can a D2 school just say something? Bro.
The crazy thing is like COVID ruined 2 years worth of offers for kids. Because what happened was they
extra
had to
year for the kids over there.
Yeah.
In college.
And so what I told the kids, and some listened, some didn't, I'm like, listen, it used to be if you didn't get your money, you went JUCO. I said, but college is JUCO football now. It's all JUCO. I said, so go to the school that's going to play you, get your film, and go where you want to go. But they'll get caught up with the state. Well, I want to go D1. I'm like, but you're not. How long? Like, it's when do you want to play, son? Like, when do you want to get on the field?
Yep.
And so, but you have to have kids who are self-aware, and you have to have parents who are self-aware, who are not falling lockstep with these guys. Oh, we'd love to have you on campus. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, if you're playing Division I out of high school, like Virginia Tech this year did something crazy. Because we went to their coaches thing where they invited all these coaches in Loudoun. They offered 20 plus freshmen, like high school kids. Nobody does that anymore. Nobody offered that. That's the old model. He knows he just got hired, so I got 3 years.
But he also knows he's got to build a base in Virginia.
Yes,
that's what everybody's talking about.
ODU took it when they started beating them. So
and then JMU also. But
JMU's, they're different now. They used to be 1AA, but they weren't really 1AA because they're elite 1AA.
Yeah.
Now they're Division I. And so, like, it's got to the point where the colleges now are keeping their money back for these transfers. And so high school kid recruiting
harder.
It's not what it used to be. So when it's Division I camps and campuses, and I tell kids, if you want to go to a camp, go to a camp. But here's the bottom line. If the camp's only worth it if you think, man, that's a really great school. If it's for football and you go to that camp and the only person that talks to you is your position coach that whole camp, like, you went there to have fun.
Yeah.
Because you're not getting recruited.
Well, they're going to bring in, if they're either going to offer you or give you the impression, they're going to bring in the head coach's office.
Yeah.
If nobody
So,
pulls you to the side with a C, HC or OC, you know what I
yep.
mean? It
Mhm.
just doesn't matter as much. So, when you know, but if you don't look a certain, like if you're not a certain height or a certain speed, they can't risk it. Now, when they know,
Yeah.
plus the other thing is Kurt and Rusty, they can get a known commodity out of the portal. This kid understands college, goes to class. He's already
That is,
practiced for
yeah,
2 years. And
yep,
ready. They only have to pay him for 2 years.
Right.
They don't have to invest 200 to 300 grand into a kid. Now they
yep.
could pay 50 to 100 grand, and he's going to produce right away. And so, that's really another thing that's changed in high school. Like it was a cookie cutter system for years,
Yeah.
and then 3 4 years
No,
ago, everything changed. But
th-
even the football dads didn't get it because they were, well, no, that's not how I get recruited. Like, but it's not like that anymore. Like it's
Right. No,
just,
no, no.
right. No,
it's not like
I
that.
learned that. Well, my son's being recruited by Coastal Carolina, and then like other schools, then as that was coming out of 10th grade, but then you had other schools that were like, oh, I'd like to, but coach, he was, this was in like summer 2021. They were like, but coach, I'm gonna be honest. They would tell me, and they would tell my son's coach, like, look, man, I think if I can go get some kid that I've seen on film. I know he's got good grades in the college. He's got a man's body already.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know his character to a certain degree. Like we're just not taking high school kids in that much anymore. And I told my son, because I was like, look, man, like you didn't have a great season, but your school didn't have a good season. You got a new coach. I said, look, if I said, pick the school you want to go to based on your feel. Like, do you feel at home? Do you feel like these coaches and the people who cares about you? Because a lot of people said, oh, come here. But I said, look, you're where you're supposed to be. Because if you ball out and the other coaches you'll be where I said you'll go on somewhere else. But if not, you do your 4 years here. You go because he wants to be a PE teacher and a coach. I said it'll be fine.
I tell the kids, you'll know when you get on campus. I was like, no matter what, I went to a small D2 school called West Virginia Wesleyan College, and I visited 6 to 8 schools, and I just remember sitting down the campus that morning, and I was like, I like this, and it just kind of, God blessed me, and it fell in my lap, and finances worked out because I shouldn't have gone to a private liberal arts school. It wasn't in the cards for me growing up, poor kid in West Virginia, but it worked out great, and the other thing that is different now too, kids love getting recruited. So like when the three of us grew up, if you decide to go to a college, at most, maybe there was like a tiny paragraph in a newspaper somewhere. The kids love the act of getting recruited more than they love the sport. So they are on Twitter and posting this and posting that. And it's like, thank you for this and thank you for that. And there's DMs and like it consumes a kid and it's not healthy. And
no.
And so, I tried to, and I think most good head coaches try to sit down with the parents before the senior year. And I learned this from Coach Skinner a long time ago, and Coach Griffiths as well. When I worked with him, was sit down for the year, talk to the parents, like, okay, what do you want to do? What are your goals? What are your finances like? Because honestly, Division I is over before your senior year. If you're not locked in anymore before your senior year, the PWO is most likely, and linemen. God, do they always need linemen? Everybody comes back looking for linemen. Linemen with good grades, you can write your own PWO offer and nobody turn you away. Swear to God. Nobody. And so, if that's the tough part, but sitting down with them before the season saying, look, here's what you want, here's what you need, here's what you have to do to get what you want. But now that process starts before their junior year. Because now kids need junior tape. Like if you blow up as a sophomore, now kids feel pressured. I got to blow up as a sophomore so I can go to camps, so I can get offered on my first 5 my junior year. You know what I mean? Because what they're going to tell you, man, nobody's going to offer you without a camp. So nobody's going to, unless you're just ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like there's like, I'm just, the kid, he was started at Champ and then he went to Light Ridge and got offered. He's now at Penn State.
The big lineman.
Yeah. Amazing kid, amazing family. He's just, but like he didn't camp there. But when you met him, Anthony Donko, when you met him in person, you're like, yep, cool, yep. You saw 10 plays on film. Yep, that's cool. That works for me. You know what I mean? So, but that's the other thing. So like recruiting has changed. Now in the area, everybody has recruiting coordinators. Like high schools have recruiting coordinators.
High schools do.
Like it's crazy. And so recruiting coordinator. Go ahead, Kurt.
No, this is relevant because I drove to work in Hernan the other day. I go down 28 and go the back way so I don't have to pay the toll. But I was talking to a coach from Hampton. I won't say which one, but we were talking about offers because he had a kid that Power 5 offer and he's on campus now. But we talked about, and Coach Dawson, you already hit on it. Kids are when they get art, whatever they call it, the mock-ups where they put them in front of the stadium and then they get offers. But he was talking about when offers are real and they're not real. And there's a lot of unreal offers out there. And people think that this, that, and the other's happening. So for the student athletes, the football players, as well as the parents, Coach, talk about that, like how that can change in this dynamic.
Just
so I'll give you some examples.
I tried to
I'll give you some examples. It's funny. So like, you have to teach a kid. We have a kid, Tyler Savage. I used to coach at Champ. He's at ECU as well. And you had to say, Tyler, and you got to realize you got a kid. You have to teach kids how to talk to adults. It's intimidating. Mm-hmm. And when the coach said, we're making you an offer today, the first you have to say to the kids, you have to say, sir, thank you so much. What kind of offer is this? Because the blanket statement doesn't mean it's no money. There's no verbal binding to saying it's a financial offer or it's a PWO. We're just going to offer you today. We want you, and that's great. Thank you, guys. I got an offer today from so-and-so. Right. What does that mean? And so you have to teach your kid to go, I appreciate it. This is humbling. I don't know what to say, but, my parents want me to double check, what kind of offer are you extending? And that's when the conversation gets very real.
Thank you. Thank you, Coach. I'm glad you said that. This is not going to just be the Loudoun County. It's going to be the recruiting show too.
So that's the first thing you talk to the kid. And then you got to be if you're a good kid, you got to be in the building all the time because recruiters show up and different high schools handle how that works. Different head coaches handle how it works. They come in and some guys want to see them in person. You got to teach your kid how to handshake, how to look somebody in the eye, how to have a conversation, how to have a conversation with a recruiter that he's not interested in. And tell him, look, you may not be interested in Temple, but that guy at Temple is not going to be at Temple forever.
Right.
Or that guy at Temple might not like you. But he knows a guy who needs that guy. Mm-hmm. So you teach about having character and always doing the right thing. And then you have to teach them about replying on cell phones because texting there's windows for text and phone call, and you could slide in the DMs and things like that. Like, look, just reply. And it's okay. Like you're not hurting this grown man's feelings. You're not the only one. You're not that special. So it's not like dating.
He's talking to 5 other players, 6 other.
And I can give you a story where that came back to help a kid because he was honest, and so that's how the process starts. And the next thing you got to do is when can I get on campus? Because that's when you start showing like you do. It's not just the offer you want. You are interested in the school. Because if a lot of schools will not offer you, A, if you don't look the part. Obviously, B, you got to have the grades in the film. But then C, you got to come to campus. Like I knew for a long time, VMI wouldn't offer you unless you stayed over the night. Like we had a kid, if they're not going to extend the offer unless you stay the night, because it's VMI, it's not college, it's a little bit different. Right. So if you really want to be there, you got to be there. So then after that, then you got to come camp. If you don't come camp, they're not going to offer you unless you are elite and somebody they compete against has already offered you. Now they're kind of backed in a corner and they have to offer you, in some schools, only the head coach offers. Some schools, the position coach. But in the end, the head coach is everything in the story. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where they still got to. I mean, I have coaches. They just want to see him in person, and the teacher wouldn't let him out of class. So I had to walk this coach all the way up to this kid's chemistry class and give him this to stand up. So UVA or Kentucky or Duke can go, he's really 6'3". I'm like,
I test been around for a long time.
A lot of people lie, coach. A lot of 6'3" and 6 foot. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I was like, cool. So then that process goes on. And then, but the crazy thing about recruiting is it's so much fun in the beginning. It's like 20 people flirting with you over the phone. Yeah. But I have met very few kids when it was all said and done. It was awesome and fun. And they weren't excited for it to be over. And so, and then they want to sign. Well, you really only sign at D1, D2 because that's a real deal. Like that's binding. Yep. If you sign that, you're locked in for a year. If you walk away from it, you're out 365 for eligibility. Now D3, you're just signing your name to, letterhead, but you're still signing.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep. So
that's the difference. In most, you're out a room fee. Like you might put a room deposit down, but you could walk away in a heartbeat for that. So, that's really changed. But that's so different now. And high school football is so different than it was in 06. Like if you did an off season, if you just ran a football off season, like And you couldn't practice then either. To touch a football back then, you had to hold camps. And if you held a camp, then you could
I was going
actually
to ask you
practice.
about that, Coach. Well,
Oh, we've had that so many times. Dogs, kids. Got it.
two things I was going to ask you, Coach, is about when Virginia changed the rules and allowed sports to do stuff out of their season. And the other thing I was going to ask is, do you have any kids? So
Well,
I think
so it's funny you tied that in. So when I got the head coaching job at Champ, when I got hired, I had one kid and he was 1. First day I started at Champ, I had 2 kids. One was 18 months, one was a month old. Okay. Right now, when I resigned at Champ, I had an 11-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 6-year-old. So it really changed my value.
It is
time.
hard to be a head football coach.
So this segues into your second question, which is the off season. So they're like, okay, because like back in the day, man, if you had a football out, man, the AD would come out and yank that thing so quick. And I was like, this is insane. Well, now you get all these green days. You get 20 in the winter, 20 in the spring, 15 in the summer, whatever. It's crazy. Right. Well, it's a double-edged sword because now you have ups the risk of burnout from coaches, families, and kids. So again, there are other places where the model's in place. Like if you go down south, it's just they have spring ball. It's 15 days. It's padded. And up here, every high school uses those days differently. And you're kind of here too. You're kind of tied to like, well, what can I do? Because the most important person in high school football is not the head coach anymore. It's the quarterback. Because not many people have 2 quarterbacks. Because what happens to that second quarterback? What's he do? He transfers. Okay. And so you try to have a football practice without a quarterback. It's very tough. You can do some defense, okay, but you're not really doing much. So now you're beholden to
Coach Dawson is the man. We got to have you on, bro.
So now it's like one spring, I had a coach in my PE office tell me that I was rude for telling this to a kid. I called the dad up on the phone. I said, "Hey, how you doing?" He's like, "Good." I said, "What's your schedule for the spring?" He's like, "Well, think about doing this, that, and other." I said, "Well, cool. Just let me know because I got to run practices and I can't do it without him." And I hung up the phone, and the other coach in the room goes, "That's too much pressure to put on a kid." I said, "It's not pressure. Like I can't set a schedule. If he runs track, that's cool. I have morning practices. No big deal. If he doesn't run track and does personal training, great. I can have practice in the afternoon. I just got to plan for the staff. But I cannot do this without a quarterback." But I'm telling you what, brother, 2 hardest things to find now in high school football are backup quarterbacks and linemen. Like it's just it's what it is.
My son's we had on Lake Braddock's coach the other day, but my son did a
Doc
year.
Is awesome. He used to be a Loudoun County guy. He used to be at Dominion. He opened Dominion.
Yeah, we thought so.
And Jamie Kaiser, was a great basketball player and quarterback, but he was the backup quarterback at Lake Braddock. And going into the 11th grade, he transfers to Bishop Ireton and for basketball and football. But Lake Braddock had these great run of quarterbacks, but they couldn't all stay there. So,
and they know they don't have to anymore. And parents are much more willing to be mobile with them. Like I never suffered from the transfer much. Funny you said Bishop Ireton. My second year there, I lost 2 kids to Ireton. And I met the dads and I've tried to talk to them and you're going there to chase the offer. And I'm like, no offense, but okay. And neither one of them ended up with a Division I offer. And it's not because they weren't good high school kids. It's just it didn't work out there. But I never really had to worry about that. Now you have to recruit your halls. You got to keep your kids happy. You know what I mean? You got to be dialed into the parents and knowing what they want. Some stats have to be you've got to get certain stats on kids. And so you feel pressured on that. But that's a big change now in the offseason is you got to find out where your quarterback is and what he can do. And now the other thing you have to balance is personal training. From 06 to 09, 10, 11, I didn't have no kid go to personal trainer. That didn't exist.
Got to go down.
And it got to the difference now. Like I started having all of our good kids. Your good kids want to get gooder. They want to get better. And they're trying to find the edge. And so it got to one point where like some of my best kids on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday were working. They were going to a trainer on Friday and camps on Saturday camp. I had to change the way I was doing my off-season training. And one guy was like, "Well, why are you changing?" I'm like, I got to protect my kids. Like they're not going to protect themselves. They're going to push the limit to find the edge to get that offer. Meanwhile, if you're 6 foot and run a 4.9, the offer's not coming. But they are chasing that dream. So it's like, okay, I got to protect them from themselves. And so do I think personal training works? I think it works if you think it does. You know what I mean? I think personal training works if you really believe it works. And I do think it's a valuable tool for some kids, but I believe working with your high school team is tremendous. Build a culture, build camaraderie.
Yeah.
So that's also changed in high school football.
Coach, we are definitely going to be, you will be one of our return guests on a regular basis. I do want to ask you this, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Yep.
So you have 4 children, and I don't know how you were a head coach with that, but let me ask you this. Do you have sons? And if so,
great wife. I live 2 minutes away.
Great wife. Yeah. Oh, no, let me tell you something. We talked about this with another, but like a coach, behind a great coach is a great wife to do all that stuff on every level. People talk about the pro coaches in college, but the high school coach mom is the one that's doing a lot. But let me ask you this. If you have sons, will they play football? And then if they already do, or if they plan to let them, how involved will you be with that?
It's a great question. So I always answer the first thing. I have 4 kids. I have 1 boy and 3 girls, and my son is the oldest. And he looked at we played flag football a year, and he looked at me for 1 flag, and the whole year. And he looked at me one day, and I said, "Luke, you don't have to play football." He said, "Seriously?" I'm like, "You don't have to play." And he just saw this weight come off his head.
Good.
And so,
great for you, man.
But what I tell people about kids in youth football, I tell them you should let a kid play flag as much as possible.
Thank you.
And here's when I think it's appropriate for tackle, when you get tired of telling them no. Because most kids, little kids that get hurt in tackle, don't belong on the field because they're not ready. But
right.
I really believe kids should play. They should play before high school. I didn't. My mom wouldn't let me. But I really do believe that, so they get the fear of tackling. So they are actually learning football and the fear of tackling. So when they get to high school, they're learning their high school program. They're still not worried about, am I okay? Will I get hurt? And so we've always said out in Aldi, where I had football, we're very football deficient because not a lot of our kids played youth football. And COVID was the worst. It just killed youth football for 2 years. But I do believe in youth football. It's a tremendous teacher, tremendous coaches. And kids should play tackle when they are ready. The parents tired of saying no. But the biggest evil in the world with youth sports is telling kids early that they should be a 1-sport kid. That's the devil.
Yeah. I was just going to say, you got
to
run track. You got to run track.
Yes, Coach, you are, and I'm glad our audience is going to get it. You are saying the things I've been saying for 20
Coach,
before I had
answer your question. What's the hardest player to run a high school football right now? Option. Because quarterbacks can't flip the ball because they don't have transferable skills because they don't play others. Most high school quarterbacks only play quarterback and they train in the off season.
I'm just telling you, I was an option quarterback in high school, and I tried to, and I coached my son, I coached middle school. But let me just say this: we got to, because everything you're saying is what I said before I had kids. Now my brother was an All-American in high school, played at Virginia Tech, all Big East, and we both got 3 kids. But one of the things I said before I had kids is, and because I've coached football, and they were like, "Well, are you gonna?" I said, "No." I said, when it comes to football, I will put my kids in flag. And I said, if they like it, that'll be great. But I don't, and we're learning, like, they don't really need to play tackle until they're maybe about middle school or 12 or whatever. But I say, this is the thing. You got to want to play tackle. I've seen so many parents, and I'm going to tell you, the worst parents that I saw were football moms. And this was like, because I had a daughter that played, my kids played soccer, and everybody's supposed to be not rude, but like, I would see mothers, and this is when we grew up in Hampton. But I've seen it up here too. The kid gets run over, and the mom is cussing them out and telling them to get up. And I'm like, when it comes to football, man, it's got to be in your heart, because I don't care what mom, dad, or coach, anybody says. When you get run over, it's got to be something in your heart that tells you, I'm gonna get up and I want to do that again.
Yep.
And if you don't,
it's a humbling experience. From a lineman's perspective, the same thing when you get pancaked, and these kids today, and this will be a conversation we should bring up the next time. These kids today are not as mentally tough as we were 15, 20 years ago because the culture doesn't allow it. So something to think about if we get a chance to hop back on again.
Man,
the challenges these kids face now.
We'll do it.
I'll tell you this, guys, as we close up. These kids need football more now than ever.
Absolutely.
Ever. And I'm not saying from like an ego, state championship recruiting. I'm talking about from a heart and a confidence standpoint and a relationship standpoint, man.
Absolutely. Man, Coach, you have blessed us tonight. I'm so glad you were able to join us. Yeah, you might have to be our Loudoun County correspondent. We'll follow you, but you're taking knowledge that a lot of parents, like, again, I wish we had done this episode 2 years ago, because my son, I was saying the exact same thing, but if I said it, it didn't mean anything. So what a lot of us do as coaches is I send my kids to one of my friends or assistant coach, and they're saying the exact same thing I said. And I have had my son call me from college now. He was nervous 3 weeks ago before he left, and he's saying stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I told you. I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I kind of told you that. Yeah,
but he only gets it because you laid the groundwork. And I say this to parents all the time. If you hadn't been the one to say it, the echo wouldn't have come from the coach.
Yeah.
It's not me. You laid the groundwork. It's like, oh, yeah, work does pay off, So,
yeah.
Thank you guys for everything tonight. Appreciate your time.
Coach Dawson, you're the man. Look, I really appreciate you taking the time and joining us on the show.
All right, guys.
Well, look, for Coach Dawson, for my co-host, Kirk Hilliard, this has been the Kirk and Burr Show. We are out.